This is a post on the JP forums, a thread on the JP forums. Can you believe it? An actual good thread on the JP forums discussing the gearing system in Final Fantasy XIV and how it has some issues and how they would like it to change. So, I'm going to read some of the posts and we'll give our opinions on it, yeah? Sounds good? Sounds good? Let's do it. Number 1. After watching the Q&A from the 14-hour live broadcast yesterday, I wanted to share a thought I've had for a long time. As the title suggests, there is currently a healer shortage, and Yoshi P said, why not try playing healer? I certainly feel the same way. Right now, I am raiding Savage as a tank. I sensed the healer shortage and thought of switching to healer. However, the problem is gear. When there is a weekly cap, if I start gearing healer, I will have to start from 0. Even if I commit to the path, by the time I get best in slot, the tier would have died down. I do think gearing is certainly the charm of doing Savage. However, with the current system, you will be limited to just one role. It's really hard to experience what Yoshi P meant by this is a game where you're allowed to handle multiple roles. Would it be possible to consider nerfing the requirements to obtain either Savage gear or Tome gear or even both gear sets? Honestly, if we stick to the usual, remove cap right before next Savage routine, it's too late to help with the current situation. At the very least, please consider gradual nerfing around the 4th or 8th week. I've actually thought about this quite a lot. For a long time, I think that gearing in FF14 is completely antithetical to the point of the job system. The armory system is intended that you can play every job on one character. That is the intent of the job system. You are supposed to be able to fully experience the game while having only one character. You should not need a second character in order to have 2 geared jobs. You should not need a second character in order to fully experience the game. So why is it that often, before unlock, you can, even if you clear week 1, if you're not doing splits, you can usually only gear 2 to 3 jobs or 2 to 3 roles. And that's a problem. Because in Party Finder, surely the ideal for Party Finder is that you go into PF, you have a couple of new players, and you have a couple of more experienced players that want to help those new players. And having those experienced players forced to be back at minimum item level, if they swap job to help, it's an issue for helping those new players, and it's an issue for the experience of the experienced players. They're not having a good time. I think that there are a few solutions to this. First of all, you know how you have a 450 tombstone cap every week? I genuinely believe that the game would be more interesting if, when you get your 450 tombstone cap, right, instead of going to the vendor and spending your 450 tomes on something and they're gone, instead, you can spend those 450 tomes on each individual gear set. So you get 450 tomes for healer, and 450 tomes for tank, and 450 tomes for ranged. So what it essentially boils down the tombstone gearing system to is literally just, okay, I've done my tombstones for like 10 weeks or whatever, so I have all the tome gear for all of the jobs. And then I do Savage to get the BIS pieces. I think that that is a genuinely better situation than the current one. Secondly, I think that Savage should unlock on the 0.3 patch, on the intermediary patch. 0.1, 0.3, 0.5. Not right at the end. It should unlock halfway through. As soon as the catch-up patch releases, Savage should unlock. And you should be able to get all of the Savage gear immediately if you want to by farming it. I don't see any reason to be gear gating players 25 weeks after the fucking Savage tier releases. It's so dumb. It makes no sense at all. How do you make a good-looking UI for that? That's their job. That's their job. There's so many different solutions to it, but those are like easy bolt-on solutions, right? You should still have some kind of time gate, because if you could gear everything week 1, that would also be an issue. There needs to be a sweet spot of a number of weeks in which it takes to obtain BIS while farming the tier. And I do think that the sweet spot is probably 6 to 8 weeks. I think that's fair. I think clearing the tier and then needing to farm for 6 to 8 weeks to get your BIS is fair. But every role after that should be exponentially faster, and it isn't. Because players should be able to go into PF on different roles, they should be able to learn different roles, and they shouldn't be penalized for having the audacity to use the armory system the way it's intended. It's bullshit. Add upgrade items to all bosses. Like I said before, I genuinely believe that the 4th turn should drop both upgrade items. You get one upgrade item from turn 2, you get a second upgrade item from turn 3, and from turn 4 you get both. I would even... Alright, here's a copium argument. I would even potentially argue that when you clear the 4th turn, all 8 players should receive an item that they can trade in for an upgrade item, either a left or a right of choice. I would be fine with that too. Yeah, I think that when we talk about the gearing system, okay, so the biggest system, the biggest problem with the gearing system right now is accessory and left side upgrades. Upgrade items are a big problem because even in a static scenario, groups are capped at 1 of each every week. And then every 4 weeks, if you spend your books, each player can get an extra one. I think that when you clear turn 4, either they should lessen the issue by flowing more upgrade items into the system by having them as loot, or they should flat out give every player that clears the final turn for the week, they should just flat out fucking give them one. It doesn't need to take so long. There's no reason for it. The bottleneck is too much. It's too much. It's a problem. You should either be able to gear every role at once, at least from Tome Gear. I think that it should either be a case of they flow more upgrades into the system and make it so that you can upgrade faster, or they should make it that after you have finished gearing your first role, every other role is exponentially faster. Every intermediary patch, or at least most of them, comes an ultimate, or in this case, in about a week's time, a Criterion Savage. The requirement to get into ultimate is BIS item level, right? You need BIS item level. That means that if you clear week 1 and you did not split clear, you might maybe be able to enter ultimate on 2 rolls. Maybe. If you didn't clear week 1, probably only 1 roll. So that means that from the moment that you get your first piece of Savage loot, if you're not a week 1 clearer and you plan to do ultimate, you are shoehorned into that role. You can't swap roles. You can't utilize the armory system. It's an issue. It's a genuine problem. It locks players out of doing future content. If we talk about the Savage dungeons, which are coming even sooner because Savage was 0.2, 6 or 7 weeks ago. And 0.25 comes the Criterion dungeons. I don't think we know for sure they require BIS, but there is the chance that they require BIS. That means that even players like me who are doing split clears are locked into one job, one role. I can't go join a group and play caster in it. I can't go tank because I don't have the eye level. I can heal and only heal. And it's a problem. I would argue if it takes 8 weeks to gear your first role, it should only take about 2 weeks to gear every role after that. Your gear should exponentially increase to allow you to gear other jobs and other roles and help other players. So let's read a few more comments. Currently, it's a hurdle to switch jobs until the weekly cap is removed, especially since the ability to swap roles is limited by the weekly cap. It's impossible to play as a role currently in demand. Therefore, I would like to see a system to exchange the Tome and Savage gear we possess into another role. However, since weapons have direct drops, it should be excluded from the system. This is interesting. So what they're saying, I've got a Savage headpiece. It's a healing headpiece. If I want, I should be able to go and exchange it for a tank headpiece for free whenever I want. Interesting. Melding could be a problem. If we implement the aforementioned system, it will be possible for people to switch roles due to various circumstances, whether it be role in demand or issues with static composition. Very good point. Your ranged leaves and you swap to range so that someone else can join. You're not cooked. You're not back at eye level 610. Very good point. Since Ultimate is on the horizon, there are many players saving up all of the tomes and books. This approach will eliminate the issue and allow more flexibility in playing. Yeah, true. There is nothing to gain or lose from exchanging the same gear for different roles, but if anyone has any concerns, I'd like to learn more. This is a really good point. This is the kind of point that Square Enix might actually follow up on and might actually agree with, you know. Because in order to swap gear, you have to give up your gear. If I want a tank set, I have to give up my healer set, right? But it means that you can swap roles if you want to. You're not gaining more gear than you had before, but you are able to exchange your gear at will. That is a good idea, something that Square Enix might actually support. Please reduce the books needed to exchange for 4th floor loot. It takes 8 weeks to get one piece of gear. With bad luck, it takes 16 weeks to get both chest and weapon. That's 4 months. That's a full patch cycle. Not enough time to prepare gear for Ultimate or Criterion dungeons. True. There's usually about 16 weeks between odd and even patch cycles. For Ultimate, the general rule is to be available for multiple jobs in the same role. For tanks, people might need to adjust for 4 different jobs. So it's only natural to at least get 2 to 3 weapons in advance. Fair, true. There are certain jobs that are more advantageous with the Ultimate design, or there can be job adjustments happening during even patches. For players who want to clear the Ultimate within the same patch, it is the best course of action to consider job balance and switch jobs accordingly for prog. He's right. In a design where you can only get 1 weapon guaranteed, it would be fine if the balance is so perfect that any job can prog without hesitation, but over 9 years of service, FF14 has never achieved this level of perfect balance, so gearing becomes a difficult issue from the player perspective. Depending on when you start progging, and how long it takes to finish the tier, you could be missing books too. So 8 books for 1 weapon takes way too long. I understand there might be some time gate for gear from low difficulty content, but that's not what Savage weapons are supposed to be. Since Savage is gatekeeping players from the upcoming content, this should be an easier way to obtain more raid gear. In even patches, you get Twines and Shines catch up, making tome gear easy to get. Then what's the point of gatekeeping Savage gear? Very good points. Very good points. So I'd be curious to see what you guys think about this, because I genuinely believe that gearing in FF14 is an issue. I think that the armory system is probably the coolest job system in MMOs. I think that the armory system is one of the main reasons that I play FF14 above other MMOs, because I don't like having multiple characters. I much prefer having one character that can do everything. And right now, your one character cannot do everything, right? And it's a problem. It's a problem that your one character cannot do everything. Your one character should be able to gear a number of roles before the off patch if you clear week 1. And if you don't clear week 1, they should be able to clear a few. I am in awe that Savage has not been unlocked on the off patch for a long time now. I think that Savage should be unlocked on 0.1, 0.3, and 0.5 as standard. There's no reason for it not to be. And I think that there should be alternate gearing paths for people who have cleared the tier.